All right, game 4, Warriors and Lakers. I didn't get a chance to rewatch Miami and New York. I really wish I could. I would make a video on that if I did, but I only got a chance to rewatch this one, so I'm going to talk about this one. Since those games come on tomorrow, and once again, it's very hard for me to make videos. Kudos to everybody who can make videos every day. That's really hard. I don't know how people do it, and it's really crazy that y'all do that. This video is sponsored to you by nobody. I have no sponsors. I really wish I did. That would be nice. I have no sponsors. I don't really have any subscribers. I got a couple today, which kind of made me happy. You know, once again, if I get 500 or 1,000, I'm gonna give some stuff away. The likelihood of that happening is slim, but maybe one day. We'll see. I'm gonna always remember these first kind of 10 people that subscribe though, so if I ever make it big, y'all know y'all gonna be my OGs. I'm gonna hook y'all up if I ever make it. Remember this. Quote this video if that ever happens, but you probably won't be quoting that, but just in case, I owe y'all. You feel me? So really the story of this game, honestly, the story of this series has been coaching. We know who Steve Kerr is. Like I mentioned in the last video, Steve Kerr, when he's down 2-1, his record is impeccable. He knows how to adjust. He knows to make the right adjustments at the right time. That being said, Darvin Ham is looking like a dog as a coach, so don't take him lightly either, even though everybody was kind of clowning on him the whole season and talking about how he doesn't know what he's doing. But like I mentioned before, he was a rookie head coach. But at the end of the day, he's been an assistant in this league for years. He's been an assistant on teams with Giannis and Kobe. Like, he knows what to do in these situations as well. Before I get into some of the, I guess you could say, schematic stuff, I'm not as big on X's and O's as you might find in some other channels. I try to follow what I do know. I'm not an expert like Ben Taylor with Thinking Basketball or Cran Just Make Basketball, you know, some popular Twitter accounts, YouTube accounts that can really break down the game on that level. But I do trust my eyes, and I am willing to listen to what those guys have to say a lot of the time. But I know enough to give a little bit of insight. Regardless, this game, like I mentioned last video, it was going to be a dogfight. I knew that. We all knew that. The idea of this being a blowout, especially a blowout in the favors of the Lakers, that was not really in the cards for me. I did think the Lakers would pull it out, but I will admit things got kind of shaky as the game was going along. Like I said, overall, Lakers are probably looking to repeat the Memphis blueprint, to go up 3-1 and maybe game 5 you lose, but then close out game 6 at home. This is a different team. The Warriors are not the Grizzlies, so we'll see how they do. But at the same time, like I said, your coach can only figure out so much. It gets to be the players need to adapt to the game plan, and the players need to show up. Speaking of show up, let's immediately talk about Lonnie Walker. Many basketball minds that were people who know what they're talking about, they dismissed the Lonnie Walker signing. They didn't think it made a lot of sense. I know his advanced analytics did not look good, and I know there were people that were excited about Lonnie. I mean, to get a player like him, as young as him, on the contract that he was on, kind of like last year where Lakers signed Malik Monk. But in some people's eyes, it was Lakers let go of Malik Monk and basically sign a guy who in their eyes was worse. So I get it, I understand. And to be fair, Lonnie literally didn't play for months. Like, let's be real, that's pretty telling if a guy, even if he's on a small contract, you know, but to not play for so long, like that means, maybe we should assign somebody else that could contribute in all factors. Regardless of all that, major props to Lonnie, major props to him staying ready, major props to him not really pounding. I know he had some stuff on Instagram that was kind of like the usual, man, I really wish they were believing in me, or my time will come, you know, that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, he didn't let it affect him. He went to that locker room. One thing about LeBron is he's not going to have a weak locker room. He's always going to have a strong locker room where there's not really any drama. The fact that he had Kyrie in his locker room and you never really heard about too much tension outside of maybe the first year where there was Dion Waiters and Love and they were kind of causing some problems, but ultimately Bron got it together because he doesn't really have locker rooms where guys are going to cause issues like that. Honestly, even at the trade deadline, there was people saying, dang, I wish we could have flipped Lonnie. There were people saying that they wish Lonnie would have been traded instead of Pat Bev, which, I mean, I understand that because Pat Bev is a very useful player, but it's looking like, I don't think Pat Bev could have done what Lonnie did. That being said, Pat Bev obviously brings different things than Lonnie brings, but to go off for 15 points when the Warriors only scored 17 in the fourth quarter, like, that's crazy what he just did. Like, this was a gutted out dogfight slog of a game, and Lonnie Walker came in and scored 15 in the fourth quarter after having 0 in 3 quarters, after not really playing consistent minutes since the calendar year switched over. That's crazy. Like, that's the type of stuff that's like what Kat says, this is what movies is made of. Like, That's what movies are made of, for real. But anyways, I digress. Let me not get too much into Lonnie. I'm happy for him. Let's see if he can carry that momentum into the next game. But beyond that, there's like all these different coaching changes and schematical changes that really impacted this game. I think the easiest change to see is obviously Steve Kerr started Gary Payton II. He was basically playing center, even though he's basically 6'3", 6'4". So Anthony Davis was guarding him so he could stay in the paint. But instead of just running all these different Warriors motion offense, handoff, things like that, it was you take Curry, high pick and roll with whoever Anthony Davis was guarding, and then Anthony Davis all of a sudden is not involved in the paint, and you could just see the Warriors in terms of like game planning, they were dicing the Lakers up. Like Curry's numbers, you could tell. Look at how many assists he had. I mean, in the first game, he had 1 assist until the end of the game, and then he ended up with 3. I mean, that's such a huge difference from him having 1 assist for most of the first game, and then he was like, before the game was over, I remember just seeing 11 assists, 12 assists, 13 assists. I mean, he was passing the ball like crazy. All this talk about how the Warriors shoot too much, and that's why they aren't getting free throws. They outscored the Lakers in the paint. I don't know the final number, but for most of this game, they were easily outscoring the Lakers in the paint. And that's crazy when you think about it. The Lakers basically get most of their points from the paint. And props to Gary Payton II. Once again, somebody else staying ready. He basically just came in, he would set a screen, and he was just running like a madman. You know, Draymond was finding people, Curry was finding people. They had their offense opened up, and it was really tough for the Lakers to get going offensively because that's not their strong point. I'll be honest, once it got to that 12-point lead around there, I thought the Lakers were going to mail it in and be like, all right, let's go into game 5 and see what we can do, even though that would have been a very risky maneuver. But this is where the Lakers deserve props because they did not back down. They decided to defend home court, came in, Austin Reeves was hitting big shots. They didn't get anything from D'Angelo, but he was poised, and Vanderbilt barely played any minutes. Rui couldn't really get going, but the Lakers as a unit, the Lakers collectively, they came together. They were rebounding, they were defending, they were making the right pass, they were doing everything they could, and then they had Bron and AD, they did what they did, and that boost from Lonnie, that was the thing that put them over the hump. They got a lot of stuff from Lonnie that the Warriors weren't getting from their others. You know, they had a good Draymond game. Draymond kind of came in and did his thing. You know, a typical game you would expect from Draymond in the playoffs, but Clay was awful. Jordan Poole, let's not even get into him. I mean, he had 0 points. That's crazy. Like, all the talk about Jordan Poole carrying the torch from Curry, which I never really thought was a thing. I never really saw him as like that every year all-star caliber player, even though his contract may say otherwise. But getting 0 points out of him, I mean, the dude played 10 minutes. That's crazy. That's like very telling of your playoff performance if you only get 10 minutes. Really, for him, it's up to him and see how he responds on that one. Like, will he come into game 5 pouting and basically giving up? Because I know his post-game locker room interviews were not very positive. Or will you go out and just, you know, check ball, time to do what I do? Or even if you don't play any minutes, you know, it may not be your series, and he doesn't play many minutes, and he comes in, and Warriors somehow come back 3-1, which I don't think is happening. But then the next series, you do your thing. What type of player are you? You know, how will you respond? That says a lot more about you than can you go in there and get 20 points jacking up a bunch of shots. So we'll see how Jordan Poole responds. I will say though, and this is the reason why, even though Steve Kerr has been criticized for years for not just going to a Curry pick and roll nonstop, the reason that he always said he doesn't really like to do that, because pick and rolls are notorious for only getting 2 people involved. And after watching this game and how that was the primary way their offense was running, now I understand it, because they weren't really getting other guys involved. Why do you think Klay Thompson was so off? It's not just because he forgets how to shoot all of a sudden. He can't get a rhythm going if it's just Curry and whoever AD is guarding. That's not really conducive to having the offense that they've had for years now. I mean, the Warriors have been with Steve Kerr for 7 seasons, 8 seasons now, and for him to have this system built in place, of course these guys are going to look a little shaky if you just completely switch it up and switch up the game plan like that. So of course Clay is going to struggle to get going. Of course all these other role players are going to struggle to get going. That being said, kudos to Darvin Ham. I mean, outside of getting that spectacular Lonnie performance, there was a lot of issues that he had to overcome. I mean, he was kind of getting nothing out of most of his guards. He wasn't getting much out of Dennis. Dennis was making some boneheaded plays. I mean, Dennis's defense, he's always going to bring that. He's always going to compete on that end, but that behind the back turnover, that made no sense. D'Angelo 1 for 10. Reeves came in. He struggled at first. Reeves was trending for a little bit because he was playing like garbage at first. but he stuck with him. He could see that he had something going. Reeves had his best game of the series, basically, and Darvin made the adjustment. He put AD on Wiggins, and there wasn't really a need to screen with Wiggins because, first off, I'm sure the Warriors are looking like, oh, okay, well, AD's not going to come off Wiggins because Wiggins will have an open three. AD can cover so much ground that he's kind of like in between. He's like checking on the paint at the same time he's making sure Wiggins isn't completely open, and Wiggins wasn't even really aggressive with that. Regardless, Wiggins' game is not to be a screener, so that was a brilliant move by Darvin. He put AD on Wiggins. Wiggins is not about to be in a bunch of pick and rolls. That's not his game. I do think an adjustment for Wiggins in game 5 might be for him to be more aggressive, but like I said, eventually as a coach, you're just going to run out of counters. You're just going to run out of things to try and put pressure on the other team. So if the Lakers go into the film room, Darvin Ham and his coaching staff go into the film room, and they figure out different ways to counter, which based on the end of that game they basically did, then really the Lakers have a good chance of taking game 5, honestly. I mean, if they don't, then I'm sure they'll be ready for game 6, but it's not going to be easy. The Warriors are a championship team for a reason. Having to kind of put them to rest is going to be a really tough task, but LeBron and AD knows this, and I'm sure the rest of the team knows this too. I'm sure Darvin Ham knows this. And LeBron, let's talk about LeBron. I mean, LeBron got a lot of criticism for jacking up a bunch of shots and that you could say were ill-advised. The thing is, he was left open. I mean, Steve Kerr, he's a Popovich disciple for a reason. He figured he's going to play the percentages. LeBron has been struggling to shoot. Leave him open, see what happens. LeBron has been okay on those kind of like rhythm threes, but when it comes to pull-up threes, LeBron has really just not been good on those. That being said, LeBron still found a way. LeBron was really engaged offensively. He's been obviously showing up to the arena early, and you can kind of see the difference. While his shooting percentages aren't that great, there's times where you just see him and you're like, wow, he looks a lot better than he did earlier in the series and even at times last series. The thing about LeBron is his greatness far surpasses just him making jump shots or not. If you go back and look at that last play, basically LeBron is telegraphing the Warriors' whole play with the play that resulted in the Draymond turnover. LeBron was telling people where to go, telling people to switch, and communicating out there, and obviously it ended up in a turnover for a reason. It's just funny because LeBron has such a bad reputation as a clutch player based on a series that literally was, what is that now, 12 years ago? Literally a series from when I was in high school. LeBron has a bad reputation of being clutch, but this guy comes through. He comes through and delivers in the clutch every time. A lot of stars don't do that. A lot of stars are not an extra coach on the floor calling out coverages, telling players where to go. There's a lot of guys who don't do that, and you can see why their team suffers for a reason. There's a reason LeBron has consistently been in the finals for years and years, and that is part of it. So I think I covered most of this game. I thought we were going to end up going to overtime for a second there. That being said, I will stick with my Lakers in 6 prediction. I mean, part of me wants to say Lakers in 5, but I'm going to give the Warriors a little bit more credit. I think their home crowd is really going to re-energize them, and the Lakers are undefeated at home literally since they played. Let me double check on this one. Yeah, I just went back and checked. The Lakers have not lost at home since Sunday, March 26th against the Bulls, which was that first game that LeBron came back. Really, if you go back and look at it, since they made all their big time trades, they haven't lost at home. They've only lost at home basically 4 times since then. In the playoffs, they're undefeated at home. So I think game 6 will be the one where the Lakers move on. I was not really that high on the Warriors this year in general. Like I've said, I give them their respect. If they have Curry, they're never out of a series, but they went to 7 with the Kings for a reason. I don't think they're this runaway favorite that the media paints them as based on their past reputation, but they're going to challenge anybody, but I just don't think they have it this year. So I could be wrong. They could come back and take it in 7, but LeBron having 3-1 being one of the defining moments of his career, I don't think he's going to allow the Warriors to basically turn around and turn that on his head. Like I said, I think it's Lakers in 6. I think the series will end on Friday night. We'll get a Friday night classic, but I think the Lakers will come to play. And the Warriors, I don't think this is the end for them. I think, they'll take a look at their options in the offseason before doing anything hasty. I don't think it's just immediately they're blowing everything up, but we'll see. Once again, go ahead, subscribe. I'll give you something. I mean, it's not going to be everybody getting something. Let me chill out. But, I'll pick somebody, maybe pick a couple people, get some jerseys going, some nice quality ones too, not some bootlegs. Don't get people some nice stuff, you feel me? So, yeah, peace out. Everybody have a good day.